G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Salome Fourie from the Fourie Agency based in Kansas, USA. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, great to be here.
Let's start with how we know each other. We've both recently, in the last month or so, started using a new platform called Podmatch, which helps podcasts like ours find guests and vice versa. So really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. No, it's been interesting getting to see so many different podcasts all over the world, which I didn't have access to before Podmatch. So
yeah. Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
So the Fourie Agency is, it kind of combines the online business management world and project management world for clients essentially all over the world. I don't just work in the US, I work all over the world with different clients from different industries. Small to medium businesses who need somebody to truly come alongside them and help them manage their business, from all things like launches, systems, projects that they have going on that they don't have the time for.
Right. And on project management, it's a bit of an interest of mine. One, I'm trying to find a good platform for my offshore team. I've got 4 team members overseas. So is there one that you prefer to work with or use? And secondly, I'm guessing if a client's already got one in place, you're happy to work with that?
Yeah, I'm always happy to work with what clients already have, but it depends on what you're looking for a project management tool. So a great one that I use quite often is Asana, just because of the ability that it has. It kind of combines a little bit of what some people want with the visual with what other people want from the more data related lists and things like that. So it's a great way to help keep an eye on your team, especially if they're based all over the world.
Right. And also your clients can be integrated into that as well.
Exactly. And systems like that can also be integrated with different systems that you might already have in place.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Have you looked at or used much of Basecamp or Monday.com?
There are some clients who have looked into it. Monday.com is just not something that the majority of my clients want based on the integration options that it has.
Yeah, right. Okay, great. And is most your work retainer, or is it a lot of it's project based?
The majority of it has been retainer. Some of it is project based if they have a large launch coming up and they want me to manage that from start to finish. So launches can look different depending on the industry, obviously, but it entails a lot of planning, a lot of budgeting, a lot of taking a look at what the skill set is of their current team, who needs to come on board, what can be used from previous launches, things like that. And most clients and business owners just don't have the time to do that themselves.
Yeah. And also skills and expertise, because it is a real skill to be able to manage herd cats and get a project done, particularly on a short deadline. It's fun, isn't it?
Exactly. And then also, reviewing it at the end to take a look at what worked well, what didn't work well. Keeping a track of, if we brought on additional team members who worked really well with us, so we can keep them in our back pocket for next time.
Yep.
Those types of things.
Right. How did you start out?
I started off doing some virtual assistant type work while I was in the corporate world. And then with COVID, obviously every industry changed pretty drastically. People moved home, started working from home. And then come the end of last year, things changed pretty significantly with my corporate job, which was in marketing. Mm-hmm. And I looked at my husband and I said, I don't want to go back.
Yep.
I don't want to go back to an office setting. I don't want to go back to constantly being every minute of my day monitored.
Yep.
And I found a certification that I could do that kind of brings in all of the skills that I have to utilize with different industries and not just in marketing specifically. and to help clients in a more holistic way than I was when I was just working in marketing.
Right. Great. And what was that accreditation?
It was being a certified online business manager. So there is an association, an international association that you are accredited through, and they do training every year so you can, keep up with the latest software and learnings and all of that, so I can help my clients even more.
Great. And so when did you start? It was January this year, was it?
Yes, I became certified in January of this year, and then launched my agency and just hit the ground running from there.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so how old were you almost a year ago now when you decided to make that scary jump?
I was 28.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. And do you have some key numbers to illustrate the growth of the business over the nearly 1 year?
Yeah, the growth has been incredible over the past year, or almost year. It's been, over 500% growth, just based on how much work has been coming in, how much we've been doing. My husband is now my business partner. I launched on my own, and now he's become a part of the business. He is a certified PMP, and he handles a lot of more of the IT related things that are not just the basic types of systems that I typically work on. And so, yeah, it's been great.
And PMP, is that project management professional?
Yes, and that's also an international accreditation that you have to go through.
Yep, great. So you're both full-time in the business now? Well,
I am. He is not quite yet. He's also doing consulting work through our agency, but he's not full-time quite yet.
Yep. And you bring in contractors to help with the workload, if particularly on project work as well?
Correct. It depends on clients' needs. Some clients have their own teams that they want to use. Some don't at all and don't want to. So then I bring on a team for them.
Yep. Great. When was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
The moment I felt I succeeded. Wow, that's a great question. I guess the moment I felt that I was replacing my corporate salary. So in the marketing world, in sales and all those things, salaries can be pretty big. And so it takes a lot to replace a salary like that in the virtual world. So that's definitely one moment I feel like I had finally gotten somewhere.
That's great. So in less than a year, you've been able to replace your corporate wage. That's fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
What does success look like to you?
That is a really, really great question, because I think everybody defines success differently. And for me, it's not necessarily related to how much money I'm bringing in or how much the business is bringing in. I think it's more related to the type of life I've been able to create because of this. So I am a mom, and it's given me a lot more time because I've learned how to balance everything to actually spend time with my son and soon to be other son. Right. So I never had that with my corporate job. I always had to be there when they wanted me to be there. And so I felt like I was missing out a lot, especially since they're, so little.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think thanks to COVID, there's a big structural change. There's a lot of talk going on in the press at the moment about the Great Resignation, which I'm sure you would have heard of. 15 million Americans have quit their jobs since April this year. That's only like 6 months, 7 months. So like yourself, a lot of people are sick of shitty bosses that micromanage or are just terrible people, driven too hard, not appreciated. And they're either looking for better workplaces or, like yourself, jumping into employment, their own employment.
I think the biggest problem has been, especially me knowing and having worked overseas and comparing it to the corporate world in the US, is there's not a big work-life balance here. And that's been really hard, especially for people who really strive to have that. Some people live for their careers, others just don't. I mean, I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'll never give it up because I'm not meant to be a stay-at-home mom, like at all.
Yep.
But I still want that time with my family. I still want to spend time with them. And being in the corporate world here, you don't really get that at all. So it's been really great.
The American work culture has always fascinated me. Generally, you only get 2 weeks holiday, don't you, over there? A lot of
Yep,
jobs.
that's it. And for some companies, that even includes your sick leave.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's just
that's
like,
what my husband's was before he left to only be a consultant.
yeah,
Was
right.
he only had 2 weeks and that's it.
That's just not sustainable. 2 weeks a year, throwing
Mhm.
a few public holidays, but that just reeks of burnout, and that's just terrible.
I mean, he was even asked at one point, we were going on a 2 week vacation. His parents, he's also South African and came here. And we were taking a 2 week consistent vacation because they were here and we wanted to spend time with them. And he was asked, why are you taking 2 weeks in a row? Like, why don't you split it up? And he's like, why are you questioning the way I'm using my PTO?
Yep. Yep.
It's insane.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of employers are in for a rude shock in the next few years because there's a lot more power shifted. I think there's a labor shortage in most industries or sectors now anyway. So I think that is changing for the better in the next few years.
I really hope so.
Perfect.
I really hope so.
Perfect question for you. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business?
Number one thing I would recommend is to definitely be consistent. If you don't know how to create a strategy for yourself, find somebody to help you create a strategy. The biggest thing is going to be for you to create a brand for yourself, for your business, and a brand document that lists out things like not just the colors and the fonts for your content, but what your company stands for, what the pillars are for the content to be created around, and then stick to that.
Yeah. And have you got any examples of clients you've worked with where you've really taken them from, shitty marketing and to a really good outcome?
Marketing specifically would be, it's a great question. So I worked in completely different industries while I was in marketing specifically, from, big hotel chains to the beauty industry to healthcare. And those, I would have to say, some of the biggest changes I've made was in a large hotel chain and really helping them improve their social media. They were a very well-known name, but they thought because they were so well-known, they didn't have to exist necessarily on social media. They didn't have to engage on social media. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make, especially if they feel like they're a well-known name.
Yep.
Because to give you another example, I had a potential client that I was talking to not too long ago, actually. And she was saying, oh, my business has completely failed because it was all in person. And with COVID, that all collapsed. There was nothing. I wasn't on social media. I didn't talk to people on social media. I wasn't virtual at all. So if you don't kind of stay ahead of the game and keep up with the trends, your business is going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. How did you fund your business?
I funded my business with my own capital. So thankfully for me, there wasn't too much of a startup because it is virtual, it's home-based, there isn't too much to pay. And that helped me keep things very, very low at the beginning so that I can ramp up fairly quickly.
Yeah, great. So no investors or bank finance needed?
Nope.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Oh, absolutely. I love what I do. I love that I get to work with so many different people all over the world, so many different industries. And it makes me feel like I'm always learning something new because every client's different. Every industry is different.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
The most stressful point for me, and I don't know if I would necessarily do it differently if I had to go back, but would be to jump in, essentially having left my corporate job without a backup plan.
Yeah.
I went in saying, I'm either going to sink or I'm going to swim.
So you burnt the boats. You burnt the boats, as that saying goes. Yeah.
Exactly. It was very stressful. I had a very short time period, essentially, to make it work. And I spent very long hours making sure things are the way that they're supposed to and getting things up running. And yeah, it was very stressful.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
The area that I've had to work on the most, I would say, is continuing to learn. So with every client, they all bring their own set of processes, their own systems that they already use. And some of them are systems that I haven't used in the past. And so I have had to continuously learn what those systems can do. Is it truly what that client needs? Is it benefiting their processes currently? And I feel like it's only made me better with new clients, especially because I've now learned so many different ones.
What have you enjoyed least about managing fast growth?
Probably getting used to the fact that this is my own business. If I am not showing up for my business, it's not going to bring me the income that I want. It's not, I just show up to my job and I get my steady paycheck every month. So that has been definitely a learning curve, especially at the beginning, but it's also been very rewarding when you do show up.
Yeah. And do you have plans to, pad out the team, add more permanent team members?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it'll be employees. I think I would have potentially full-time contractors, VAs, eventually my own OBM as well.
Mm-hmm.
I set up my business the way that I did in order for it to grow to that scale.
Great. And do you have a number of, full-time team members in mind you want to kind of get to?
That honestly depends on the amount of client work.
Yeah.
So the clients range and the hours that they typically need a month also range depending on the size of their own business. So a 6-figure client looks very different than a 7 or 8-figure client.
Yep. Yep. What do you love most about growing a small business?
You get to see your own work pay off every step of the way. And it's extremely rewarding because you're the one doing it every step of the way. Where when you're working on one piece of a small project for somebody else, you only get to see that little small piece.
And what's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
You can never dream big enough.
Nice. What about the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain? I'm sure you would have seen a lot of bad habits out there this year.
Yes, I have seen a lot of bad habits. And the biggest one being is not setting boundaries. Yeah. So every small business owner essentially starts their business off with an idea of what they want their life to look at. Like I call it their perfect average day. And it's not like they want to be on vacation all the time, but they want a better life balance than what a corporate job necessarily gave them. But none of them get to that point because they don't set boundaries for themselves. They never turn their phone off. They don't turn their notifications off. They're constantly answering emails at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to a point where I flat out tell my clients, if you email me at 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to tell you, stop emailing me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to answer you until the next morning.
And you didn't have that problem in the transition from corporate life to, the excitement of running your own business. I know I still struggle with it, but I also have to put boundaries in place. My chocolate Labrador, taking me on bushwalks, hanging out with my 8-year-old daughter, etc., and a lot of socializing. Otherwise, I could easily work, and I used to work 80 hours a week.
I think it depends on the way you look at it. So some of my nights, I am working a little bit later than what I ideally would, but it's because I spent my afternoons playing outside with my son.
Yeah.
So it's the boundaries I've put in place for myself where when I'm spending time with my family, I'm not going to answer you. But if I'm spending time with my family during the day, I'm going to put work in at night.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm the same. And I track my time that's one of the reasons why I track my time is to make sure I'm not working too much. So if I've had a busy couple of weeks, I can see it in my timesheet summary and then, take some half days off to balance that out. The flexibility is great, but it can also be a trap because we love what we do.
Exactly. And honestly, the biggest thing that I hear my clients complain about is I need more time. I want time back. And one of my clients right now that I'm working with right now, today is the first time because of things that we've put in place and work that I'm doing for her with her team that she's had time to go do yoga in the middle of the afternoon, to go sit and have lunch because she's been skipping lunch. I'm like, why? Like, that's a huge win for her. And I'm glad we're at that point. But why are you guys letting it get to that point where you can't even have lunch in the middle of your day?
Yeah. Not healthy nor sustainable.
No.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growasmallbusiness.com.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team? You know, the contractors you brought on, etc. I think that the husband was an easy hire, but any wins and mistakes and advice for those listening, and particularly if you've helped out at all with any of your clients with hiring, you know, any advice around people?
You need to be very clear about what you want if you're hiring contractors. You need to have a very detailed list of the type of skills that you want them to have, and definitely go through a pretty extensive interview with them to determine what their skill set is. There has been mistakes that even I have made in hiring contractors where, you know, I might not have asked the right question, or else I would have known this, but it was too late at this point because I've already hired them, where communication is wasn't what I expected it to be. You know, they are handing things in late instead of telling me in advance, hey, something came up.
Yep.
So you just need to have the right process for yourself and your business. And that's why processes are so important.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. A lot of small business owners go short on this. They don't invest enough time in recruitment and also take the opportunity to make it a process. So, right, with, you know, that hire wasn't very good. What can we learn from it? What can we do differently? Go further upstream, be clear in the job ad, ask better questions, more behavioral probing questions, for example. But each failure is a learning opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that is something that I also help my clients with. It's not just the hiring, but creating those processes that their team uses, not just for hiring, but for onboarding and what their team is going to be doing throughout the day. Because if you don't have that, how are you knowing what your team's doing?
What are some things you'd recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with growth?
I would say open communication, understanding if you are working with contractors that they're not your employee. You don't get to set their hours necessarily, depending on the type of contractor that they are. And if you are wanting people to stay long-term with you, if that is the type of business that you want, instead of constantly going through this rotating door of new people all the time, is make it fun for them to want to work with you. You need to not micromanage. Nobody likes that, but have the right processes in place where you don't have to, and where it's easy for them to understand what their role is within the business.
Yeah.
And appreciate the things that they do well and recognize that verbally.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Mentioned this in an article I wrote the other day. Pay is usually the fifth reason why most people work in places, and you know exactly what you just said. They're getting feedback and appreciation on their work is higher up than pay. People will take a small pay cut to go and work for a better manager that provides that.
Exactly.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
I have handled balance by putting in boundaries in my life. So during certain times of the day, I don't answer emails. I don't answer Telegram chats. I don't answer WhatsApp chats, Slack, Voxer, whatever you guys use. And so far it's been working well. I'm sure I'm going to have to adjust it over time as things change, as more demanding clients come on board, because some clients are more demanding than others.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about putting boundaries in place and making those very clear with your client. So every contract of mine is very clear that every client signs. These are the hours I work. Sometimes you might hear from me outside of those hours, but it's not guaranteed. And you're not going to hear from me on holidays.
Yep.
Like, don't expect me to answer you on Christmas. It's not going to happen.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
I have invested quite a bit. So I truly believe that personal development is going to help you grow. It's going to help your business grow. Every person can learn, not just from books and podcasts, but if your business is at a point where you can afford a business coach and it's the right fit for you, I definitely recommend it.
Yep.
They are designed to help you grow, to help you think outside the box than what you're already doing, and to help you dream bigger than what you currently are.
Yeah.
If your dreams aren't big enough and they're not scaring you, then you're not dreaming big enough for yourself.
And have you had mentors along the way?
I have. So the association that I'm a part of, to be a certified OBM, has mentors and coaches in that program that have been a part of the business for a long, long time. So anytime I have questions about growing my business, if I am stuck on an issue with a client, I go to them and they help me with essentially whatever it is that I need.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors at the moment?
It is myself and my husband.
Yeah, great. All right, Salome, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
The hardest thing in growing a small business is essentially the sales call. So depending on your industry, most have a sales call in the virtual world because of coaches, consultants, everybody has a sales call. And I think people are too scared to pick up the phone. People are too scared to reach out, to go outside their comfort zone, to connect with new people, to connect with their audience. And it's going to hurt your business. If you don't have strategy behind it, if you don't have a way to constantly make new connections, your business isn't going to grow.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Move it first. It is all about the way you need to financially be setting up your business, that, essentially you need to be making profit first, and certain percentages of what your business is bringing in every month needs to go to certain things, depending on where you live, the percentage up for taxes and the percentage of what your business costs are and things like that, in order for you to actually see your business grow. And if you're somebody that's never run a business, owned a business, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but a few guests have mentioned Profits First. That book, yeah, it's on the list.
It's good.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
There are a few different podcasts that I like. Most of them are to do with business. There is my most recent one, because I kind of like to stick to one at a time, to be honest, is, let me find the name for you here. 1 second. Great with faces. I'm always horrible with names. Mom Owned and Operated.
Right.
So it's all about moms who own different businesses in different industries.
Yep.
And it's been a really great one because they don't just give business advice.
Yep.
They help you with the mom life balance of owning a business too.
Great. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
One tool. Just one?
Just one. Yeah. You can reel out a few if you want, 2 or 3.
So if I had to only pick one tool, I would say that it's probably a CRM.
Yep.
So a client management tool. in order for you to better manage your clients, better manage your leads that are coming in. And it also helps you do a lot of automation depending on which one you have to make your life a little bit easier. So things aren't so manual.
I know there's various ones for various industries, but also sizes of business. But what would be your top 3 CRMs that you'd recommend?
Definitely depends on your business size, but I would say that I love Dubsado is one of my go-tos. Salesforce.
Yep.
For bigger businesses.
Can be expensive, yeah.
And I also really like Keep.
Okay, yeah.
It used to be called Infusionsoft.
That's right. I was trying to think of the name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Final and my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day 1 of starting out?
To never give up, no matter how hard it gets. Because there are definitely days, especially at the beginning, where my husband was not part of the business. It was just me. And he had no idea what I was up to, where I would say, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. This is so hard. This is way harder than I ever thought it would be. And he was kind of like my cheerleader in the background saying, you've got this, you can do this. And reminding me of why I wanted to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing people need to do is remember why they started their business in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good advice. Well, thanks for your time today, Salome. I think the audience got a lot of value out of your journey. Congratulations on the growth in these 10 months. Very exciting times. You've replaced your corporate wage very, very quickly, and in reveling in the flexibility and balancing with family life as well. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's great being here.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.